Git is the command line utility used to manage GitHub repositories. But they can also be used to manage any kind of repository, including one, say, locally on your own PC or on a network. So to launch Git in Windows, just type Git from the Windows command bar here, and you'll see if you've got it installed, there should be a Git bash and a Git GUI. And to be honest, I've never found the GUI very useful. So we're going to go ahead and stick with the command line version of Git bash. All right, so launching Git takes you to a bash shell. It's similar to other Unix shells, although it can, in Windows, run some Windows commands, such as if I wanted to get a standard directory listing, I can just type dir, and you can see I get the Windows listing. But I can also run Unix commands too. So for instance, if I wanted to, say, get the Unix version of the list, I might say this, ls-l, and get the Unix version. And of course, I can run various Git commands. So if we looked at the version command, and so here you can see we get the version of our Git. So let's now take a look of an example of how you might actually use it. And in this video, we'll stick with working with the local folder. In a later video, we'll look at working with GitHub. I just first want to introduce you to kind of how the product works. So suppose I had a file, right, that I wanted to edit and track. So I've got an example file here. This file, testfile.txt, it was a dark and stormy night, and this file happens to reside in this folder here called git test on my E drive. So this is where I'm going to start. Ultimately, what I need to do initially is create essentially a repository. And to do that, I'm going to have to initialize Git. So in order to do that, I'll need to first navigate to the folder. So let's go cd /git test. Okay, and once in that folder, I'll need to then initialize and configure Git in order to use this folder. So I'll do this with the command init. So we'll use git init. All right, we now should have a folder. Now, if you notice the last time there was just a single file in here, and now with the initialization we have this hidden folder called .git, which also has a lot of different various supplemental information that it will use to essentially manage its repository. So now that we have Git initialized, we can go ahead and start using it. So the first thing I'll probably want to do is add a test file, or rather add the files that I want to track to the repository. So I'll use the add command for that. So let's do this. We'll say git add test file.txt. Okay, and if I do an add, I may want to check the status to see how everything is. And you can see right now we have a file in there, no commits, no changes. Everything is fairly clean. So once a file has been added, I'll need to commit it using the commit command. So you can see here that changes to be committed. So we've added the file, but we haven't actually committed it to the repository yet. And the reason why we do that is that in the event that there are specific changes or things you want to do, this allows you to essentially back out those changes if necessary. So adding is sort of an intermediate step. We need to finalize it using the commit. So we'll go ahead and do that. And in this particular case, we'll also use the commit command and use the -m flag to allow us to add some comments to that commit to let people know that this is perhaps our very first commit. So let's go ahead and do that. So we use the commit command. We have git commit -m, and we can do something like this. Initial commit for test file.txt. All right, now we have our command. Now, if you run the status again, you'll see it'll say it'll be a working, clean tree. So there's nothing to commit. Everything looks good. Now, what's normal is that you will make your changes if you're collaborating. If you're working by yourself, working off the master is fine. But if you want to work with other people, then what you want to do is actually create a branch. Work in the branch, and once you have all the changes you then you'll go ahead and merge those back into the master command. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do that. We're going to create a new branch and take those changes, commit them to the branch, and then merge the branch back into the master to get essentially our overall global copy. So let's go ahead and first, just as kind of a diversion here, we'll look and see what the log looks like using the git log command. So there's our initial commit. So let's go ahead now and create a new branch. And we do that with the branch command. So we might say something like this: git branch, new branch. Now notice we are currently in the master. So in order to get to the new branch, we need to, in a sense, check it out. And we do that using the checkout command. So to move to the new branch, we'd say git checkout new branch. And again, the reason why we want to do this is because we want to make sure that our changes don't necessarily step on anybody else's changes. And so we sort of splinter off into our own sandbox. So we've got this thing called new branch now. And if you want, we can once again look at our status, see where we're at. Okay, we're on new branch and we have a clean branch, but we don't have anything in there yet. And the reason is because we need to add the files that we want to work on. So let's go ahead and add that test file. So we once again use the add command, git add test file.txt. And if you're paranoid like me, you might want to check the status and say something like this: git status, and you can say, okay, I'm on the new branch. I've got nothing to commit. And so I'm looking here, and let's go ahead and make some changes. So let's go to our file and let's fix the error. So we'll fix that and save it. Now, because this is now being tracked, Git will pick this up as a change. So we can actually see that. We'll once again run git status and see, aha, we've got a modified file, and we want to go ahead and commit this file. So let's try this. Now my git test file, every once in a while I type this incorrectly. Let's see what we have here. So let's git add test file.txt. Okay, that was fine. Let's go back to our status. By the way, you can up arrow to get commands back. You can run these here. Okay, so it picked it up this time. All right. So we'll go ahead and commit. So we'll make git commit -m. Let's say fixed a spelling error in test file.txt. Okay, and we've got our commit. And once again, if you wanted to, we can check the log. So what do we have? Git log. One line. Okay, so here you can see we've got now our commit and our spelling error. And so everything looks good at this point. So what we want to do now, if we're satisfied with our changes, we'll go ahead and merge them back into our main. So first we need to get out of new branch and back to master. So we'll go ahead and use the checkout command. So git checkout master. Okay, and once again, you can see that we're back to the master. And so all we need to do now is merge the branch. So we can go ahead and do that. We'll say git merge new branch. All right, so now everything is up to date. Now, in the event that you don't care to use your other branch, you certainly might want to keep it around if you want to hang on to changes and get change history. But if you want to just get rid of it, you've finished and you know that all that work's done, you can go ahead and use essentially the branch command with a -d flag. So we'd say git branch -d, say new branch, and then we'll delete that branch and clean it up. But we now have our changes. And of course, if you go here, here's our original file, but we can go back to the folder itself and look at the file. and you can see that our changes have taken. And that is a very quick tour of the basic commands you're going to use in Git.